Marco Rubio scored a much-needed victory on Sunday in Puerto Rico's primary, one day after his opponents asked him to drop out of the race. Frontrunner Donald Trump trailed at a distant second, while Texas Senator Ted Cruz followed in third. Rubio has otherwise faced dismal results in 15 states' primaries and caucuses over the past week. The Florida senator campaigned in Puerto Rico on Saturday evening, making a stop in San Juan for a stump speech entirely in Spanish before a crowd of roughly 500 people. Rubio must win on March 15th in his home state of Florida, where he's trailing Trump to have a shot at securing the nomination.
I'd love to have a head-to-head matchup with him in Florida, as an example, and Ohio. But in New York, he's not going to get very many votes. In New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, he's just not going to get very many votes. So I would like to see it. I mean, I would like Marco to drop out from the standpoint that I think Marco, now look at how he did tonight. He's in third and fourth. And somebody was nice enough to say that even when I don't win a state, I always come in second. That's a big thing. Marco's coming fourth. So I think it's time for Marco to clean the deck. I do.
Of course he did. I mean, everybody that's running asks for somebody to drop out so they can do better, except for me. I've never asked for anybody to drop out.
Marco Rubio had a very, very bad night. And personally, I'd call for him to drop out of the race. I think it's time now that he drop out of the race. I really think so. I think it's probably time. You know, I don't think tonight he can get up and rant and rave and, oh, he did great. He comes in third. He comes in fourth. Every time he comes in third or fourth, he says, you got to be able to win. And he has not been able to win, and I think it's time that he drops out. I would love to take on Ted one-on-one. That would be so much fun, because Ted can't win New York. He can't win New Jersey. He can't win Pennsylvania. He can't win California. I want Ted one-on-one, okay? The establishment is very unhappy with the way things are going, and I can understand that, although I used to be part of the establishment. You know, 7 months ago, before I decided to run, I was part of the establishment. But now I'm not part of the establishment. Once I announced I was running, they said, what's he doing? Why is he running? He's not supposed to be running. I'm self-funding. I'm not taking their money. They have no control. I'm going to do what's right for the American people, and that's very simple. So they're not happy. If they run a third party or an independent party, if they do that, it will make it impossible for the Republican candidate, on the assumption it's me or anybody, to win. If that means losing, that means that Hillary Clinton, who should not be allowed to run because of what she did with the emails, should not be allowed to run. They are going to appoint very, very, very liberal judges. And all of this time that the Republicans are fighting, saying that we don't want President Obama to appoint the judge, it's not going to matter, because the new president, who would be a Democrat, will appoint the judge, so it no longer matters. And you're probably talking about, because it just seems to be, the appointment of 3, 4, or 5 Supreme Court judges. And you got to start thinking about that, folks, because anybody that does a third party, that's what it's going to mean. Very simple. It guarantees, 100% guarantees the election of the Democrat. That means the appointment of Supreme Court judges, 3, 4, or 5. That is a total wipeout for conservatives and for Republicans. So start thinking about that. Start thinking about it. Lion Ted. I call him Lion Ted. He holds up the Bible and then he puts it down and he lies. Okay, Lion Ted. I never saw a man that lied as much. Now, Lion Ted, no, what he did to Ben Carson was a disgrace. And actually me, because had he not gotten those Ben Carson votes, I would have won Iowa too. I would have had everything. So, no, Ted was, and what he did, frankly, when he did voter violation on a form that looked like it came right out of a government agency, voter violation, and the only way you get rid of the violation, essentially, is by voting and going and voting for Ted Cruz. Did you ever see this? And people did that because they were afraid.
Well, I'll tell you something else that Senator Sanders was against. He was against the auto bailout. In January of 2009, President-elect Obama asked everybody in the Congress to vote for the bailout. The money was there and had to be released in order to save the American auto industry and 4 million jobs, and to begin the restructuring. We just had the best year that the auto industry has had in a long time. I voted to save the auto industry. He voted against the money that ended up saving the auto industry. I think that is a pretty big difference.
Well, if you are talking about the Wall Street bailout, where some of your friends destroyed this economy.
You know.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
Let him run.
If you're going to talk, tell the whole story, Senator
Let
Sanders.
me tell my story, you tell yours.
I will.
Your story is for voting for every disastrous trade agreement and voting for corporate America.
I voted against the only multinational trade agreement that came before me when I was in the Senate. It was called CAFTA. I came out against the TPP. After it was finished, I thought it was reasonable to actually know what was in it before I opposed it. I oppose it. Now, let me get back to what happened in January of 2009. The Bush administration negotiated the deal. Were there things in it that I didn't like? Would I have done it differently? Absolutely. But was the auto bailout money in it? The $350 billion that was needed to begin the restructuring of the auto industry? Yes, it was. So when I talk about Senator Sanders being a one-issue candidate, I mean very clearly, you have to make hard choices when you're in positions of responsibility.
But let us be clear. One of the major issues, Secretary Clinton says I'm a one-issue person. Well, I guess so. My one issue is trying to rebuild a disappearing middle class. That's my one issue.